50 best horror movies according to Empire. Let's see. At number 50, It, chapters 1 and 2. I only saw chapter 1. I like the miniseries so much more. The miniseries is so cool. It is interesting, right? I think that both the film and the television miniseries do play on the idea of trauma. It basically being a giant epic horror story about a group of kids who were molested. I think that Pennywise is predator coded, like he's coded for a child predator. I think that the miniseries just pulls it off more. You know, Tim Curry is so cool. All right. Saw 2004, I think is really good. James Wan is one of the best, to be honest. I love James Wan shamelessly. I think he's an S tier filmmaker, and Saw is so good. Saw being part of what we call on this channel the return. Very briefly, there was the postmodern wave of horror films that was dominated by the likes of Scream and Urban Legend and creatives like Kevin Williamson. Real life tragedies like 9/11 and Columbine. Columbine killed the postmodern teen slasher, and then 9/11 put the nail in the coffin, and then you get films like Saw and Hostel and the whole remake craze that happened of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Hills Have Eyes that were direct responses to the collective traumatic experiences of the war on terror. And Saw is one of the best of the return. I think there were three major filmmakers of the return: James Wan, Eli Roth, and Rob Zombie. And out of those three, I think James Wan is easily the best. He's made a classic horror film in three different decades at this point, right? Like he's incredible. Hellraiser, 1987. I love Clive Barker rules. Pinhead rules. It's a really cool movie. It feels like a dark fairy tale, which makes sense because it is Clive Barker. I think that the best thing to be associated with Clive Barker's name when it comes to cinema is Candyman. I hope to see Candyman very high on the list. I think my favorite horror films are Scream, Candyman, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Dawn of the Dead, and fuck, I don't know. I love a lot of horror movies, but those four are certainly amongst my absolute favorites. Well, House on Haunted Hill gets like a special a special award here, gets a special trophy. It gets to live in its own private section, overlooking everyone else, like the fucking elite film that it is, bro. Just like looking over at everyone else, judging everyone. House on Haunted Hill, 1999, the first film of the Dark Castle fucking Renaissance. It's its own private position. It's unfair. Truly, it's unfair to compare House on Haunted Hill to any other horror movie because House on Haunted Hill is simply superior in every conceivable way. Drag Me to Hell? I did not watch this. Let me know if it's good. Did not watch it. It looked generic, to be perfectly honest. I think Audition down at 46 is a crime. I think that I would gladly give Audition number 5 on that personal favorites list I was just working out for you. Audition is fucking perfect. Takashi Miike is a genius. Audition, I think, is its finest film. I think it's one of the finest films ever made. 1999 on a global scale was such a brilliant year for cinema. Audition is so fucking good. It's terrifying. It is problematic. It's sexy. It's perfectly composed and structured. The narrative system of the film is genius. It's a masterpiece of horror. Audition should be so much higher on this list. Yeah, I think that I'm very comfortable saying that my favorite horror films are Scream, Candyman, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Dawn of the Dead, and Audition. I'm very comfortable saying that. Audition fucking rules. Don't even debate me on this. Audition is clearly a masterpiece. It's a beautiful film. I love it so goddamn much. Oh my God, Kiri. And there's something psychosexual about that in the sense that, yeah, that'd be terrible to happen, but psychosexually, you crave that kind of sadistic, erotic punishment. You know, like there's some, I need to cover Audition. I absolutely need to cover Audition. Even this scene, this is where we first see her, right? And the phone rings, and then the fucking bag over there, the guy inside of it starts freaking out, and she like jerks her head. Dude, Audition's amazing. I think it makes you investigate yourself in a really psychosexually intimate and awful sort of way. Audition is just such a fucking brutal film that gets under your skin, under your rib cage, right? Tears it out, slices it off. The best kind of horror film. But still, Nosferatu. We've all seen Nosferatu. I think it's good. I do believe that this is an anti-Semitic caricature, though, and I think that like anti-Jewish sentiments was just so ingrained in German culture that like of course it would be in cinema as well, which is interesting. I mean, the vampire, I've talked about this a thousand times. The vampire is a metaphor that is adaptive. It changes over time. It started off as anti-Semitic, and then it went to Bela Lugosi being fear of the vaguely Eastern European foreigner who wants to possess and defile and corrupt and sleep with all of our women. And then the next interesting movement or development within the vampire metaphor was in the 80s with The Lost Boys and Fright Night and the novels of Anne Rice, where we got the androgynous or queer coded gay vampire. And then we went on to Twilight, and it possessed a couple BDSM and contradictory elements within it, like a Mormon kind of quality as well. So, yeah, Twilight and the Vampire Diaries, I think, were the last interesting developments within the vampire metaphor. But a lot of these horror movies are just fascinating in that respect. Horror is a great reflection of culture because it presents to you what you're most afraid of, and a lot of the time, or more often than not, it's not like what's literally being presented, it's the subtext. Like people didn't know why Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera was so terrifying to them, but it was because of the way that he looked with his mask. It reminded them of the very real horror of soldiers coming home after serving in World War I and they were disfigured, right? Like we don't know exactly why we are terrified of something within the moment or why a certain kind of horror movement is so popular within the moment itself, but in retrospect, you can see why. And I can't wait to go 10 years out from right now and look back at the 2020s and be like, yep, there it is. I can see quarantine there, or but it's never like the obvious thing. So it wouldn't be like quarantine there. It would be something else that like we're all just too close to it to identify it properly. Like horror is a fascinating genre for a lot of different reasons. I think Poltergeist sucks. I'd like to make fun of it a lot. I think it sucks. I don't care who made it. I don't care if Spielberg or Hooper actually directed it. I wouldn't want to take responsibility or claim for it, you know? I think it sucks, which is why I think it's more of a Spielberg film than a Hooper one because it sucks. The Conjuring, a modern fucking masterpiece. Well, it's not modern anymore. God, I am old. God, I am so fucking old. This movie's over 10 years old. I think it's a masterpiece. It's my favorite James Wan movie. It's fucking brilliant. And like the composition is just so fucking fluid and acrobatic and lyrical and rhythmic and just like jaw dropping, like nearly impossible. The composition's incredible. James Wan is such a cool fucking director. The Conjuring to me is his very best work. It's his masterpiece. Day of the Dead rules. It's so much fun. Gotta love it. It's really fun. Very, very good. George Romero originally conceived this as a Gone with the Wind of horror movies. George Romero was the fucking best, bro. He was a legend, man. Oh God, I got so much love for George Romero. Absolute fucking master director. It Follows is another one that's okay. I think that a lot of people really loved it. I think people gave it like so much love that it was easy to view it as overrated within the time period of the mid 2010s. But as more time has passed, you see like no, there is some legitimate greatness to this film. I think it is a bit heavy-handed. I think its metaphors are extremely loud, so loud that they can be deafening, but that doesn't mean it's not stylish. It doesn't mean it isn't cool. It doesn't mean I don't like it. It's okay. Hereditary is the only Ari Aster film so far that I enjoy. I enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's a very good film. The Fog fucking rules, okay? I think it's a John Carpenter classic. It's so cool. The fucking radio show host, Adriana Barbeau, dude, she's amazing, bro. Like that, that movie is so cool. I love a good ghost story, especially a good pirate ghost story. It's awesome, dude. The Fog is really good, and I think that Carpenter's composition is just so gothic, so even playfully sadistic. You know, like there's a playful sort of curious quality to the fog that I think is that goes underappreciated a lot. The fog is amazing. I love it. The Babadook, I only watched it one time. One time. Don't remember being thrilled by it, but I think if I were to watch it today, I'd tell you it's fine. Nothing amazing, nothing terrible. I remember the metaphors as well being extremely loud. You know, like it's impossible to not understand what the Babadook is truly expressing. You know, and I like a little bit of a challenge when it comes to engaging or analyzing with films, and The Babadook, I don't think really provides that, but I do think it provided unsettling scares and a very decent central performance. The Bride of Frankenstein, I love it. I like it more than Frankenstein. I like it more than the first one. Oh my God, fucking wifey. I mean, literally wifey, but also my wifey too. I think the horror genre's own wifey. She is awesome, dude. Elsa Lanchester. I love it. It's such an important film. I think it did just as much innovation as the first Frankenstein did, but in ways that are even harder to fathom, truly. Like the original Frankenstein, it was innovative in the sense that it was incorporating like German expressionist motifs and elements and techniques within the new and burgeoning American talkie horror film. But The Bride of Frankenstein, this is truly the birth of the horror comedy, which would come to be so important to the genre itself. Without The Bride of Frankenstein, we wouldn't have Shaun of the Dead, we wouldn't have The Evil Dead 2, we wouldn't have films like Cherry Falls, and Cherry Falls is one of my absolute favorite horror movies. We would not have the entire horror comedy genre without The Bride of Frankenstein. The Bride of Frankenstein is excellent. I think James Whale's composition and narrative systems are a lot uh, fuller, you know, a lot more completed within the sequel than they were in the original. Raw is crazy, dude. Raw is really good. Raw, Raw is fucking real as shit, bro. Like I love Raw. Dracula's good. You know, it's not better than The Bride of Frankenstein, though. Todd Browning, I think, was famously asleep behind the wheel, and someone else stepped in and fucking directed most of it secretly. I think that what's better than the American Dracula 1931 is the Spanish language version that was being filmed at the same exact time using the same exact sets and the costumes, I believe. That one actually took its lead from films like Nosferatu, and it was a lot more creative and interesting to look at. What Dracula 1931 has over anything else is Bela Lugosi's hypnotic and startling performance. Bela was excellent here. I think it's good. I'm not surprised to see it on this list. I just wouldn't include it on mine. I hate Midsummer. One of the most overcomposed films I've ever watched. One of the most, I think, stupid films as well. Like, there should be a certain amount of cruelty to a horror film, to a horror film psychology. A horror film psychology should be cruel. But I think that Ari Aster's psychology isn't cruel, it's just simply dumb and edgy. You know, I don't think there's anything good about this film. Not a single thing. I think it's a waste. Don't Look Now is okay. That's the right one in. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Now we're talking. That's good shit. That is prime quality fucking horror. The Innocents, also great. The Descent's perfect. I love The Descent. Obviously, like that's a metaphor I like. I think that's the right level. You know, the right amount of interactivity when it comes to like the deeper meaning of a horror film. It doesn't beat you over the head with it, right? You know that our main character is going through trauma, experiencing grief and loss, and you know that her friend Juno is a symbol of betrayal as well. And Juno is also going through the same grief and the same loss due to that kind of betrayal. And they enter into the cave, and that cave is despair. That cave is like Nietzsche's abyss. They go straight into it with a group of their friends, and they fight their inner demons. And like it's a journey through trauma itself, through that black suicidal pit, self-destructive void of trauma, you know, and it's a wonderful arc. It's a wonderful fucking horror film. It's a top 20 horror film for me easily. I think it's extraordinarily well executed. I think that like even the surface level things, the monsters I think are terrifying. And I think Juno particularly is one of the most captivating horror characters ever. I thought she was just wow. Wow. I loved Juno so much. Okay, like Jesus Christ, man. What a cool character. That's one of the best fucking characters in horror movies. And I love uh being in her atmosphere, being in her orbit within The Descent. The Descent is really fucking good, and I think that it's one of those rare horror movies that could actually help the viewer. Like if the viewer is experiencing grief or trauma, I think The Descent on a level they don't quite recognize can help them in a small way, but that small way is large when you think about the power of cinema itself. The Descent rules. I love The Witch. The Witch is fucking beautifully made. Eggers is good here. It's the only Eggers I've seen, though. I want to see The Northman. I want to see The Lighthouse, but I never watched any other one but The Witch. You know, and Anya Taylor-Joy, like great in it. I thought The Witch was very, very fucking good. It actually scared me. It really did. It's such a scary film, like purely scary. And once again, I think the metaphor is at a good level there. It's not overwhelming. You can engage with it however you want. I think The Witch often borders on entirely genius. 28 Days Later rocks. This is what I'm talking about with horror's reaction to 9/11. They don't have to amplify the metaphor because the metaphor speaks for itself throughout the picture. I love it. I think it's great. Danny Boyle's really good. Or I don't know if he's really good consistently, but with films like 28 Days Later and Trainspotting and Sunshine as well, he's made some absolute bangers. And 28 Days Later is so fucking beautiful, man, and confrontational. It's such a confrontational film. And it goes to show the political power that 28 Days Later can have over an audience and like how political or militaristic violence can just be so fucking terrifying as well. You know, because that's the scariest thing about 28 Days Later, obviously. I don't walk away from the film, or I don't even think about the film without thinking of the lone band of fucking army rapist monsters. You know, like I don't think about the zombies necessarily. I think about the human, the very extremely human monsters within the film. It's excellent. Night of the Living Dead, it's very good. Very good. Dawn of the Dead is better. We have to see Dawn of the Dead on here. There's no possible way they're gonna snub it. I think that Dawn of the Dead is a lot better. Night of the Living Dead is very good too. I like what the film is not so secretly saying about race. Get Out, guys, I'm sorry to disappoint. I still haven't watched Get Out. The only Jordan Peele movie I've ever viewed was Us, which I liked, but I haven't watched Get Out. You know, I still haven't. I still haven't. I'm sure it's fine. You know, everyone says it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, whatever. Gonna skip that. It's embarrassing. Suspiria fucking rules. I was just listening because I'm a fucking nerd on my Spotify playlist of listening to the Goblin score for it in my car. Shit fucking slaps, bro. Oh my God. Jessica Harper. Ooh, got a huge crush on Jessica Harper. And her being in Suspiria and Phantom of the Paradise in the late 70s, like she's an icon. She should be viewed more often as an icon. She's an icon forever in my world. She's so fucking great. I love this film. The colors are extraordinary. The visual vocabulary of this film is just so dazzling, so sophisticated, and like just so absorbing, you know? I love it. It's an absolutely gorgeous film. Even the death scenes are that of fine art. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 19, I don't care if it's technically high, it's extremely low in my view. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is basically the filmic definition of pure horror. And talk about a response to Vietnam. Talk about a response to all the anxieties of the 70s in the grossest, the most disgusting, fucking ugh, it's full of carnage, dude. Like it's creeping me out, dude. Like, and this scene is beautiful. Leatherface dance. Like, there are so many beautiful moments within this disgustingly gorgeous fucking film. It's a genius film from beginning to end. I honestly do believe it is the filmic definition of horror. Like, if you're trying to make a pure horror film, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is what you should aspire to be. It's outrageous. I don't feel safe with it, right? I don't. I think it's one of the most confrontational films ever made, and I love it to death. Psycho's okay. Psycho's okay. I don't feel like going on another goddamn Hitchcock diatribe right now. It's okay. We're moving on. Ring, 1998. Okay, okay, okay. The original's good. The original's good. The remake is 10 trillion, kabillion, billion times fucking better. Gore Verbinski's 2002 American remake with Naomi Watts is a masterpiece. And I think that it speaks to the not only like American anxieties, but I think global ones as well. But I think it primarily does speak to American anxieties directly following 9/11. Like this VHS, this fucking like analog kind of hyperfixation is extraordinarily dealt with here. Like the gritty tapes, it brings to mind subconsciously like those awful fucking execution videos that were like circling at the time, right? And it deals with a kind of cultural guilt and a cultural sort of death wish that Americans, I believe, felt like they were forced into participating with. The Ring, that the remake is so fucking gorgeous, dude. Like it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film. The Ring 2002 is one of my favorites. The more that I think about it, the more I absolutely adore it. Gore Verbinski, oh my God, that was a beautifully composed, elegantly structured film. Blair Witch Project is excellent. It's very good. Dawn of the Dead. Here we go, baby. Number 14, Dawn of the Dead. I think it's unbelievably good. I think it's one of the finest masterpieces within the horror genre, which honestly is comprised of some remarkable films. I think that Dawn of the Dead is Romero's very best. I think it's his magnum opus, and I think it's like I think it's easily one of the best offerings that genre at that the horror genre as a whole has to provide to culture. I think it's gorgeous. Savini, did he do the makeup here? Oh God, I love it. I love Carrie. Hell yeah, Carrie rules. Carrie's amazing. Got her right behind me. She's great. She's great. I've talked about her a little recently. I won't go into it too much here, but I think she is fascinating. She's great. Oh my God, An American Werewolf in London fucking rules, man. I forgot about that one for a minute, which is surprising. I love this movie so much. It's excellent. John Landis's best movie, and easily as well. I think it's probably well, Blues Brothers show signs of genius as well, but An American Werewolf in London, that is a pretty purely brilliant film on behalf of Landis. This is such a beautiful movie. It's hilarious. It is fucking tragic. It's funny, like I already said it was hilarious, so obviously it's funny, but it deserves to be overstated, right? How just truly humorous the film is. Because the humor, I think, paints the horror in a certain kind of tragicomic way, obviously. And I think that that's a really rich quality within An American Werewolf in London. Like the cosmic pessimism of the comedy itself, I think is just gold, absolute gold. Rosemary's Baby, oh my God, masterpiece, masterpiece. Roman Polanski is a master filmmaker. So he knows how to manage the levels of his films, right? When we're talking about subtext and metaphor and what's on the surface itself, I think it's clearly about a woman's right to choose in a world that is dominated by men. And I think it's brilliantly expressive and terrifyingly satanic film, only made more terrifying by its director's real life controversies. Like there is a true cruelty to the films of Polanski because he honestly was a pretty cruel man. There's a cruelty, there's a viciousness to horror films, but I think if there's any genre that should provide some sort of canvas to problematic and deviant creative people. It's the horror genre, and I'm not one to alienate anyone from the horror genre. The horror genre is where problematic creatives belong, right? Like, I want to inhabit psychologies that are damaged and disturbed often beyond repair. And Polanski, his psychology is just that very thing. The Wicker Man in the top 10. Okay, let's calm the fuck down, dude. Calm down. This belongs, dude. This wouldn't crack my top 50. I think it's good and fun. I think it's a good ass movie, but top 10. Sit your ass down, bro. Bro, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay, great. It's excellent. Wes Craven, masterpiece. It's just a cold-blooded masterpiece. It's a perfect fucking movie. Jaws, mo fucking one of the most overrated movies, dude. Come the fuck on. Spielberg has to be fucking everywhere. I'm sick of seeing like fucking like ah, no. No. I'm reining myself in. I don't want to be too fucking mean or aggressive or controversial today in my statements. I'm just gonna say I don't hate Jaws, okay? I think that it's unbelievably stupid that it's constantly featured as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. That's dumb as shit, bro. I don't care. The cinematic vocabulary of Steven Spielberg is fucking baby food. And I'm sick of having to eat baby food in between like fucking beautiful ass steak and the best fucking lobster in the world. Never mind, it's The Exorcist. I also don't like The Exorcist. So maybe if you are new to my channel, you might just hate me right now. I think I have a lot of issues with The Exorcist, but not the same issues with The Exorcist as I do with Jaws, okay? Jaws is unbearably simplistic, okay? I like it. I like the movie. What I don't like about it is its reputation. I don't think it deserves all of the praise. I think it's very simplistic. The Exorcist, I don't think it's simplistic. I just I I have a lot of issues with Friedkin's composition, with his specific use of filmic vocabulary. I love Friedkin's films like To Live and Die in L.A. and Killer Joe and Sorcerer. I think he is a filmmaker of great talent. But The Exorcist is a film that has always I've always had a problem with it, like a fundamental compositional problem with it. I don't think the film works. I don't think it's very good. Evil Dead 2. So I like Evil Dead 2. I'm one of those fucking weirdos who thinks the Evil Dead 1 is the superior film. And it might be sentimental on my part, although I do think I can make a very good argument for the Evil Dead 1 just being the superior horror film. I think it's compositionally just terrifying. But the sentimentality comes from the fact that it gave me nightmares. The girl laughing maniacally, I remember she kept me up for like a week. I would close my eyes, try to go to sleep, and I would see and hear that laugh and her smile, and it scared the daylights out of me, dude. Like it was terrifying. Whereas Evil Dead 2, it's like it's funny, yeah, but I don't think the humor is very elevated or sophisticated. Like the humor doesn't stay with me. I think I grew out of the Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. I grew out of it, and I grew out of it pretty quickly. I don't think that shit's still funny when you're in your 30s. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But the Evil Dead 1, I think, is still scary. I think the Evil Dead 1's really scary, actually. So, but I do like Evil Dead 2. It's just, whereas the Evil Dead 1, I think, is on a level like with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it's that kind of terrifying for me, that kind of morbid for me. Like Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Evil Dead 2 is on a level with Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Like, I'm done being unserious, bro. Scream at number 5. I'm glad it's so high up here. I am. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. So I'm glad it's up here. I'm not going to talk about it right now because I have hours worth of content where I do talk about Scream and Scream 2 and Scream 4. I think that they are beyond brilliant, beyond significant, beyond important, beyond legendary, beyond beautiful, and just they mean everything to me. Scream means everything to me. I love this film. The Thing, the Thing is okay. The Thing is very, very okay. Halloween, it's good. It's very good, you know, cool and scary. I like the POV shots where Carpenter forces you to assume Michael Myers is psychology, and you have to fill in all of the gaps, and everything is a gap. He doesn't have a psychology, right? So when you assume his psychology, it is so alien and so terrifying because you are assuming something that is void of psychology, and that's the scariest thing, truly, about Halloween. My favorite Halloween is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, though. I think that one is pure brilliance. Alien 1, good. It's good. It is good. Oh, number one, The Shining. Ah, it's so fucking boring, dude. The Shining. S- So fucking bored of The Shining. I think The Shining's overrated. My biggest thing about The Shining, and I've said this 1,000 goddamn times, and I'm sick of saying it, is that I don't think that Kubrick liked horror movies. I think Brian De Palma said that Kubrick hated the genre. And I think you can tell that Kubrick is working within a genre that he secretly hates. I think there are so many parts of The Shining that follow more traditional, like, horror methods, and Kubrick shows it as a fucking laugh, as fake and, like, full of artifice. Right? Like, I don't think he enjoys the horror. I think it's an anti-horror movie. I think it does so many things that are counterintuitive to the horror genre itself. And people talk about spatial impossibilities and like things like that. But I think that that is deliberate as well. But I think it's deliberately put there on Kubrick's part because Kubrick fucking hates horror and is trying to either overcomplicate it or take the piss out of the whole fucking thing. I think it's a very disingenuous horror movie. I don't think it's a good one. There, I got that out of my system. I had fun. Hope you did too. Thank you for watching.